A white woman thought she was defending her exclusive neighborhood when she confronted a black couple and demanded they leave. She hurled accusations, insults, and even threatened to call the police. But when the truth about the couple's identity came out, she was left speechless and humiliated. Subscribe to Stories Unfolded for more tales of justice, karma, and lessons in humility. This story proves that the tables can turn in the most unexpected ways. It was a serene Saturday morning in Magnolia Estates, an affluent gated community just outside Charleston, South Carolina. Known for its manicured lawns, sprawling homes, and tree-lined streets, the neighborhood exuded an air of exclusivity. Residents often boasted about its safety and charm, a place where everyone knew everyone, or so they liked to believe. Among the early risers that morning was Claire Whitaker, a 52-year-old woman who prided herself on being the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood. Claire's days often began with her routine walk around the community, where she would inspect every corner with hawk-like precision, ensuring everything was in order. With her golden retriever, Max, trotting obediently by her side, Claire took her usual route, her sharp eyes scanning for anything, or anyone, that seemed out of place. She considered it her personal duty to uphold the standards of Magnolia Estates, even if her neighbors didn't always appreciate her overbearing presence. As she rounded the corner near the cul-de-sac, Claire's attention was drawn to a sleek black SUV parked outside one of the homes. The sight immediately put her on edge. The house had recently sold, but the new owners hadn't moved in yet. To Claire, the unfamiliar vehicle was a glaring anomaly in her perfectly curated world. Her suspicions deepened when she saw a black couple standing near the SUV, unloading boxes and chatting animatedly. The woman, Naomi Carter, was in her early 40s, dressed casually in a flowy blouse and jeans. Beside her was her husband, Derek Carter, a tall man with a warm smile and a confident demeanor. Claire stopped in her tracks, her lips pursed. She didn't recognize them, and that alone was enough to set off alarm bells in her mind. After a moment of hesitation, Claire marched toward the couple, her dog trailing behind her. As she approached, she called out sharply, "Excuse me, can I help you with something?" Naomi and Derek turned to face her, their smiles fading slightly as they registered her tone. "Good morning," Naomi said politely. "Can we help you with something?" Claire crossed her arms, her gaze flicking between the couple and the SUV. "I was about to ask you the same thing. This is a private neighborhood, and I don't recall seeing you around here before." Naomi exchanged a quick glance with Derek, who remained calm, but visibly annoyed. "We're just moving a few things in," Naomi replied, her tone measured. "Moving in?" Claire repeated, her voice dripping with skepticism. "This house was sold recently. Are you with the moving company?" Derek chuckled softly, though there was no humor in his voice. "No, ma'am. We're not with the moving company. We're the new owners." Claire's eyebrows shot up, disbelief flashing across her face. "You're the new owners?" she said, her tone more accusatory than inquisitive. "That's funny, because I wasn't informed of any new neighbors moving in here." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "And you'd be informed because—" Claire straightened, puffing out her chest. "Because I'm on the HOA board," she declared. "I keep track of these things, and I find it odd that no one mentioned anything about, well, about you." Naomi and Derek exchanged another glance, their patience beginning to wear thin. "Well, now you know," Derek said firmly. "We're the new neighbors." But Claire wasn't satisfied. "Do you have any proof of that?" she demanded. "A deed, or maybe a lease agreement. Anyone can just show up and claim they live here." Naomi's jaw tightened, but she forced a smile. I'm not sure why we need to prove anything to you, ma'am. But if it'll make you feel better, I'll show you the deed once we finish unpacking. Claire's face reddened. You don't need to get defensive, she snapped. It's just that this neighborhood has certain standards, and we take security very seriously. Standards? Derek repeated, his voice calm, but edged with steel. What exactly are you implying? Claire hesitated, clearly caught off guard. I'm not implying anything, she said quickly. I'm just saying that this is a close-knit community, and we don't usually have strangers moving in without notice. Naomi folded her arms. Strangers? Or people who don't look like you? Claire's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The question hung in the air, its weight undeniable. Realizing she was losing control of the situation, Claire doubled down. Look, I don't mean to cause trouble, she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. But if you can't provide proof that you belong here, I'm going to have to call the police. This is private property, after all. Derek's calm demeanor cracked slightly, a flicker of anger flashing in his eyes. You're going to call the police on the owners of this house? He asked incredulously. If you really are the owners, then you have nothing to worry about, Claire replied smugly, pulling out her phone. Naomi took a step forward, her voice firm. Go ahead, she said. Call them. I'd love to see how this plays out. Claire hesitated, clearly not expecting the challenge. But before she could dial, a sleek black sedan pulled into the driveway, and a sharply dressed man stepped out. The black sedan came to a smooth stop in the driveway, and the man who stepped out was the epitome of professionalism. Dressed in a tailored navy suit with a leather briefcase in hand, Alan Parker, the Carter's family lawyer, exuded an air of authority. His polished shoes clicked against the pavement as he approached, his expression calm but serious. Good morning, Alan said, glancing briefly at Claire before turning to Naomi and Derek. I came as soon as I could. I trust everything's going smoothly. Naomi offered him a tight smile. Not quite, Alan. It seems we have some questions about whether we belong here. Alan arched an eyebrow, his gaze shifting to Claire. Questions, he repeated, his tone pointed. Claire, suddenly aware of the shift in dynamics, straightened her posture and tried to regain control. I was just making sure everything was in order, she said defensively. We take security very seriously in this neighborhood, and I hadn't been informed about new owners moving in. Alan nodded slowly, his expression neutral. I see. Well, let me put your concerns to rest. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder, flipping it open to reveal several documents. He held up one in particular, turning it toward Claire. This, Alan said, is the deed to the property, signed and finalized 2 weeks ago. As you can see, the owners are Derek and Naomi Carter. Claire leaned in, her eyes scanning the document. The sight of the Carters' names printed clearly next to owner made her face pale. Is this sufficient proof? Alan asked, his tone laced with subtle sarcasm. Claire stammered, her confidence crumbling. Well, I didn't mean to suggest they weren't the owners. I just thought... You just thought they didn't belong here, Derek interjected, his voice firm. Alan wasn't finished. And for your information, Mrs. Whitaker, he said, addressing Claire directly, the Carters didn't just buy any house in this neighborhood. They bought your old house. Claire's eyes widened, her mouth falling open in shock. What are you talking about? She demanded. Alan pulled out another document from his briefcase, a real estate transaction record. This is the sale agreement for your former property, he explained. When you put your house on the market last year, the Carters purchased it. Perhaps you should have read the buyer's name a little more carefully. Claire's face turned crimson as the weight of the revelation sank in. The house she had called home for over a decade, the one she took so much pride in, now belonged to the very people she had tried to belittle. "You're joking," Claire muttered weakly, but the look on Alan's face told her otherwise. Naomi stepped forward, her expression calm, but resolute. "We didn't come here to cause trouble, Mrs. Whitaker," she said. "We came here to start a new chapter for our family. We thought this neighborhood would be welcoming, but it seems we were wrong." Claire stammered, struggling to find the right words. I didn't mean any harm. I was just trying to look out for the community." Derek crossed his arms, his gaze unwavering. "Looking out for the community by questioning whether we belong. That's not security, Mrs. Whitaker. That's prejudice." The words hit Claire like a slap, and for once, she had no response. Alan closed his briefcase, giving Claire a pointed look. "I think it's time we all let the Carters settle into their new home in peace," he said firmly. Claire nodded quickly, her face still flushed with embarrassment. "Of course," she murmured. "Welcome to the neighborhood." "Thank you," Naomi said, though her tone made it clear she wasn't entirely convinced of Claire's sincerity. As Claire turned to leave, her golden retriever trotting at her heels, Naomi called after her. "Oh, and Mrs. Whitaker?" Claire paused, looking back nervously. "You're welcome to stop by for coffee sometime," Naomi said with a faint smile. "It might help you get to know us better." Claire blinked, clearly taken aback by the offer. She nodded stiffly before hurrying away, her shoulders hunched in defeat. As the black sedan pulled away and the neighborhood returned to its usual calm, Naomi and Derek stood on the porch of their new home, taking in the view. "Do you think she'll change?" Naomi asked, her voice quiet. Derek shrugged. "People like her don't change overnight," he said, "but maybe she'll think twice next time." Naomi nodded, her expression thoughtful. One step at a time. With that, they turned back toward their house, ready to begin their new chapter. This story is a powerful reminder that prejudice and assumptions have no place in any community. The Carters didn't just claim their rightful place in the neighborhood. They did so with dignity and grace, teaching a lesson that even the most arrogant among us can learn. How often do we let our biases cloud our judgment? Let this story inspire us to look beyond appearances and recognize the shared humanity that connects us all. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories Unfolded. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And remember, everyone belongs, no matter where they come from.